that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder hope gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Energy Week with George Harvey and the magical Tom Fennell, who you know is magical because he's Irish. Last time I tried recording that, it was spontaneous. This time it was planned. Our last show was done on the Tuesday before Christmas, so we have to pick up on that day, and we've got a 2-week presentation here for you. So this is, I should explain as I always do. We do news, headlines. I do headlines at my blog, geoharvey.wordpress.com, every morning, and we pick the ones that we think are the best for the previous however long. In this case,
yeah, this is not the best of the week, it's the best of the last 2 weeks.
That's right, plus actually. So we'll start on the 22nd of December, which was a Tuesday, and this is a story that comes from the Chronicle Herald, thechronicleherald.ca, which is Canadian, and what it says is Beothuck. You know, I look at this name and it reminds me of the gooey duck, which is
not spelled gooey duck.
It's spelled Geoduck. This is Beothuk, and I don't know. I'm guessing it's Beothuck. Energy Incorporated unveiled a plan for a $4 billion project to build a 1,000 megawatt wind farm off the coast of Yarmouth, Nova Scotia, to supply power to New England.
Put it in perspective, that's big.
That's big. Yeah, and if you look at this map, by the way, the land mass in the upper right is Nova Scotia, and if it looks like it's a little too far south, it's because the entire map is somewhat tilted, as you can tell by looking at the border between Massachusetts and New Hampshire, which looks tilted.
Yeah, it's tilted there.
A little tilted. Yeah. The 120 turbine venture would be built about 20 miles off the coast, and we would have a 200-kilometer submarine cable connecting it to.
That's 125 miles.
That's a long cable.
Yeah.
How do you carry that on one spool?
You don't. They splice it at sea.
Yeah, and I imagine that cable would be huge, very, very thick. Not the kind of thing that you could bend up and fold up and put in your pocket.
It's probably about 4 or 5 inches around. If we don't know the voltage, that's going to be the determining factor.
I would guess
it's going to be way up there.
Yeah, I would get. You know, this is 1,000 megawatts, so voltage. Yeah, it's going to be high. Anyway, there is that. Our next item.
They're sitting in it says gravity base in water depths of less than 100 feet. So they're on the surface of the ocean. Yeah. They're not floating.
They're on the floor.
And this same company is going to construct 5 more farms in northern Canada.
Wow.
Or Atlantic Canada.
Yeah. So our next item comes from Wednesday, December 23rd. And it says, social enterprise formed by local residents in New South Wales has become Australia's first community-owned electricity supplier after raising the $3 million of capital required for it to list on the Australian Stock Exchange. Enova will get its energy entirely from renewable resources. This is from ecobusiness.com.
This is kind of a new model over there, isn't it?
It is. These things that you're seeing are solar collectors that reflect the sunlight onto photovoltaics, and they are not really associated with this story. They were run with the story. This is a thing called the Windora Solar Farm, and I thought it would be interesting to include it because it is concentrating solar going to a PV, which runs...
It's not solar thermal as I thought.
Yeah.
It's solar PV.
Solar PV.
So it's a different species of solar PV.
Right. I looked at this thing and I thought, how in the world are they cooling those things? Well, you know, and I'm still asking myself, how in the world are they cooling them? Because they must get awfully hot.
Well, you got a point there. I didn't ask that question, but...
Yeah, but they are They have an efficiency of 35%, which is double what you would get from a normal PV, and so the amount of power they get out is about double what you would expect out of the area of those dishes. And those dishes are tall. They're big. They're like 17 meters across or something. They are.
So this is a real grassroots thing.
This is a real grassroots thing. That's right. That is what it is. Yep. And that was from ecobusiness.com. Now, on Christmas Eve, Thursday, December 24th, we got some more information on Woodland, North Carolina, where people
oh yeah, we talked about that.
Stopped. They stopped a wind farm from being put. A solar farm from being put in, and this was news all over the world. I mean, they were publishing articles about this in China.
Well, they were saying some stupid stuff.
Yeah, and there was a local science teacher who said that solar farms would suck up the sunlight and prevent the grass from growing or something. But the town said no to a permit for the solar farm, and it turns out the reason they did that was because the solar farm was going up on agricultural land which had paid taxes, but under current North Carolina law, solar farms don't pay taxes.
Well, that doesn't make sense.
They were cutting into the tax base of these local people, and they didn't like that, and I can understand
don't blame them for that.
No,
Yeah.
not at all. But the kind of wackadoodle things that people were saying in the course of this, they were said, apparently.
But apparently this spread around the world.
It did indeed. People had a lot of fun with this one.
Here,
yes,
but,
indeed. That's from Tree Hugger. Okay, and on Christmas Day, there was more news. We're going through this like one item to a day for most days because we've got
so much to talk about.
The small alpine community of Albertville, and I'm not going to claim that I'm pronouncing that properly because I don't speak French at all, which is best known for having hosted the 1992 Winter Olympics, has recently become home to a new kind of power plant. Bacteria bred in whey, which of course comes from making cheese, which you see there, are hard at work generating biogas, a clean, renewable energy source that can also be used to produce electricity. And this comes from VICE News. I don't believe for a minute that it's Vice News, but maybe it is, I don't know. Anyway,
what's interesting here, that what you're looking at in that picture is cheese.
Cheese, yeah.
Okay, and the whey is something they traditionally throw out.
Or they feed it to pigs.
Or, yeah.
Or they make it into other cheese. Ricotta is made from whey.
Made from whey.
Yep.
Well, anyhow, in this particular case, they're turning it into energy.
Yeah.
And they're producing as much energy as they consume.
Yeah.
So
this is happening in a lot of places.
This is kind of new technology,
right.
And it's just moving along the same direction.
Right, and this is it's something that happens in a surprising number of places, where you get as much energy out of waste as it takes to operate an entire facility. I've talked about the plant that my son worked at, installing controls for centrifuges and the centrifuges into the Kenosha, Wisconsin municipal waste plant, and they have got to a point where the plant is run about 100%. I think they actually put more power out than they consume from methane that's generated in a series of biodigesters. And then the only waste that they've got is water, which is pure enough that they can discharge it directly into Lake Michigan, right next to a public beach. And the other thing is the solids are processed into a Class A EPA grade fertilizer.
They're looking now upon waste as a resource.
As a resource, that's what it is.
And
these are things that we had been throwing away, and I'm sorry, I jumped. Everybody can guess what that next slide was. Okay, that was from Vice News. We have an opinion piece from Tree Hugger, and that is, wow, UK power stations slash CO2 emissions 23% in just 2 years, and have been been lots of interesting energy-related energy-related headlines coming out of Britain recently. Renewables beat coal for an entire quarter. Britain pledged to end coal use by 2025, and most major cities are going to go 100% renewable. And I have a note on this that says cuts in emissions resulted from the policies of the previous government, not this one.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There's a takeaway from this thing that they are kind of an indicator. They suggest a transition to a low, or at least a low power carbon economy is underway.
Yes.
A lower carbon economy.
Lower carbon economy. And one of the things that we have seen, I've seen this a lot in the news, is that we have the major economic, the countries that have big economic sectors, the United States, Germany, China, what have you, have decoupled their ability to grow from their consumption of carbon-based fuels, so that they find themselves growing at the same time that carbon emissions are declining.
Well, they're finding other sources of energy.
They're finding other sources of energy.
That's basically what we're talking about here.
Absolutely is. Okay, from ECNS, China realized universal power access when power was brought to a remote group of 39,800 people without electricity. The light came on Wednesday in the last 2 villages in the country without power. 2/3 of the households are connected to the national grid, which is their nation's grid, not the company National Grid, and the rest use PV devices. So they've got a lot of people who are on microgrids apparently.
Very micro, but yeah.
Very micro.
What they're saying here, though, you don't think about this. Where you don't have power to light, you go by the sun. You wake up when it's morning, sunset goes, you go to bed.
Yeah.
And
now they've got nightlife in these.
Well, that's what I was just about to mention. This came from the article, and it's a quote. The grid access brings new life and hope for local people. Here's the quote. Now, at nights in our pasturing area, we can watch TV while drinking tea or eating instead of going to sleep early as in the past. We take it for granted.
We have created, or the Chinese government has created, a new generation of couch potatoes. Okay, should we continue?
I think we can.
Okay, Power Source told us on Saturday, December 26th, hydro power plants have operated on 5 of the 23 locks and dams on 3 major rivers in the Army Corps of Engineers Pittsburgh district since the 1980s. Right now, 13 hydropower projects at some stage are at some stage of federal permitting review. If all are built, they would have a combined capacity of 212 megawatts. Now, this is 212 megawatts of hydropower, which has a high capacity factor. And that means these guys are going to be going possibly 24/7, most of them. And
well, one thing to mention, these dams have been there a long time.
They've been there.
But they haven't been
used
for power.
Again, we're talking about waste being turned to power. In this case, the waste is water over the dam. You know, and literally. And this is power that has been available for free, basically, for years and years and years. Nobody took advantage of it. And now they're saying, hey, we can't burn coal anymore. And they're
kind of ironic in Pittsburgh, isn't it?
Well, look at what happened in Alberta.
Yeah.
Alberta, which is the biggest source of coal for Canada, is coal and oil, fossil fuels. Is ditching fossil fuels.
Yeah.
So
it's economics.
It's economics, but it's also science. Climate change, you've got to do something about it, or you're going to basically have to wake up one day and discover that you've destroyed the planet. And that's going to make it hard for your children to survive. So anyway, Sunday, December 27th, Africa could be the first region in the world to power its economic development on renewable power rather than fossil fuels. According to the head of the International Energy Agency, he said government pushes to get electricity to Africans without access will help support this, as will falling costs of renewable energy. This is from Climate Central. That wind farm is
It's in South Africa.
in South Africa. It says it's in Cape Town.
That's South Africa.
Cape Town is a city, and I
Yeah.
don't see city there. So I wonder whether they're telling us a fib. But nevertheless, you know, if you think about it, you've got hundreds of millions of people who have no electricity. And the cheapest way to get transmission lines to them is not to install the transmission lines at all.
Well, yeah. I mean, the transmission lines as we know it
They're expensive.
they're reaching the end of their lifetime.
Yeah.
Lifetime. Maybe.
Yeah, I think
they're not going to be replaced.
Well,
Not as we know them.
not as we know them. I think they're going to be part of a different kind of.
Well, it's going to be
Setup.
a grid made up of multiple mini grids and micro
Yeah,
grids.
it's one of these
It's
days
just gonna be done differently.
I'm going to bring in a slide rule
Uh-huh.
and, you know, show it to people. I've got a beautiful K&E
Yeah.
20-inch
Big one.
slide, big
Yeah.
one. And that's what people who were designing the grid, the current paradigm that people are, you know, that the utilities are hanging onto and saying, we can't do without this. That's what they were, that's the computer that was used to
That was
design
the
these things.
And it worked pretty well.
It worked pretty well. Only accurate to, I mean, the big
3
ones
points,
you can
3
get
degrees, 3 points.
If you're talking about numbers that are more toward 1 than they are toward 3, you can actually pull off 4 digits sometimes for accuracy. But these were their computers, and now we've got these things for computers. These little, I mean, this thing here, this little computer that I'm reading off of has a 32 megabyte solid state drive in it.
32 gigs.
32 gigabyte
Yeah.
solid state drive. Yeah, that's right. And
When I was in college, that would have been the size of this building.
yeah, yeah. But the thing is, you can program these things to do all kinds of things that before would have had to have been done by somebody with a slide rule.
Uh-huh.
And in the old days, if you had a problem with a grid, somebody with a slide rule was the guy who figured out what to do, and then he'd pick up a phone and call somebody down the line and say, you've got to start up that station you've got. And now the whole thing can be automated, and instead of taking 15 minutes or 2 hours or however long it took to get that station going, in some cases it might have been days, they can have the power switched in hundredths of a second. And there's no reason why we should be connected to a paradigm that would that really could be done by people calculating with pencils and paper, really.
Yeah.
So,
Just
okay.
a lot of people.
A lot of people, yeah. You have 200 million people doing quick calculations, talking to each other, all yammering on the phone at once. Okay. That was from Climate Central. Now, on Monday, December 28th,
We got a double header for you here.
we got a double header for you. 2 similar stories. Scotland met its target for community or local ownership of renewables 5 years early. Capacity of 508 megawatts is now operational. The target was 500 megawatts by 2020. Energy Minister Fergus Ewing foresees continued growth. Last year, renewables returned over £10 million to communities. That's
Ewing also mentioned that a lot of this is community projects.
Yeah, right.
People are doing it themselves.
Yep. This is like
Just like we just
what we're
talked
doing
about
here.
Australia.
Yeah, but what we're doing here, we have community power.
Yeah, we
community
do.
Solar.
We do.
It's very similar. That's from the Edinburgh Reporter, and another one: wind power output in Estonia hit 5,210.47 megawatt hours on December 25th, and 4,925.12 megawatt hours on December 26th. Estonia has long surpassed its renewable energy target for 2020. The country reached its 25.6% renewable share in gross final consumption of energy in 2013. Its goal was 25% by 2020. This is from CNews Renewables.
And on Friday, which I think was Christmas Day, they reached, just from wind power,
Yeah.
they generated 1/3, or really 36%
Yep.
of their electricity generated that day came
Yep.
from wind.
Estonia is an interesting country.
We don't hear much about them.
No, we don't. We don't. They used to
They're one of those countries that's up there.
That's
up
right.
there, yeah.
It's one of those countries that's up there, near Finland. Okay, NAIJ.com told us the Nigerian Minister for Environment said the government is planning to develop about 13,000 megawatts of off-grid electricity from solar energy.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. You know, I mean, if you figure this is going to go into people's homes, probably, 100 watts might be a large array for one of these things, where in the United States, 250 watts is an ordinary sized solar panel. They're putting up really small systems there, but it means the kids can study at night.
Yeah. And it's, as we already said, they're not going to bed at dusk now.
That's
they're staying
right.
up and getting stuff done.
Partying.
Partying.
She said the government was working on a possibility of diversifying the country's energy mix and laid emphasis on renewable energy and efficient gas power. And you know what? I don't think there is such a thing as efficient gas power. Maybe I'm wrong.
Depends on what you mean by efficient.
You can get gas from waste. That might be efficient. Yeah, the reason why we've been able to have efficient fossil fuels in the past is because the company that extracted the fossil fuels didn't pay anybody for them.
Yeah.
Well, they paid taxes or, royalty fees or whatever.
They've had a good deal.
They've had a good deal, yeah. Okay. On Tuesday, December 29th, we got this from IHS Electronics 360. Scientists from the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory developed an organic aqueous flow battery expected to cost $180 per kilowatt hour, a projected savings of about 60% compared to standard flow batteries. The electrolysis can be a drop-in replacement for those in existing batteries. And
so these are existing flow batteries,
yeah,
but they're changing the nature of the liquid that flows.
Yeah, they're just changing the electrolytes.
From something expensive to something cheap.
Exactly. And I should point out to people that $180 per kilowatt hour sounds like a lot of money. But what you should be comparing it to is not the electricity that you...
It's not the rate.
It's not the rate.
No, it's the capacity.
It's the capacity. So what you should compare this to is something like a battery that you put in a car, and a kilowatt hour battery for a car would be huge.
Yeah, and expensive.
And expensive.
I got something here, I don't know if I can get it or not, but I'm fascinated by flow batteries.
Oh yeah,
because
they're cool.
There's virtually no limit to how much energy.
That's right.
If you could use lakes as the reservoir,
you could
conceivably.
You could.
Now I got a quick one here. I hope I can pull it up. It's about a minute and a half.
Oh, okay.
It talks about how flow batteries work.
Okay, let's do it.
I'm going to click on it and hope the right thing happens.
Okay.
Do you mean to switch apps? Yes. Well, unable to connect to the internet. I can't do it.
Can't do it. Okay, we'll try to do that some other way.
We'll put it up some other time when we can,
Yeah.
because it's only a minute and a half.
Yep.
And it tells you a lot in that minute.
We could probably put it on this thing. I've got a 250 gigabyte
we'll work it out.
solid state drive there.
I'll send you the link and you do it.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, now I've lost my
You've
place.
lost where you were. Well, we don't have a slide on this next one, so you can switch to me and I'll just talk while you figure out where we are. From Green Tech Media, it says, there was no white Christmas in the eastern half of the U.S. this year. Instead, there were record highs. 86 degrees in Tampa, 83 degrees in Houston, 67 degrees in Boston, 68 degrees in Burlington, Vermont, and 66 degrees in New York City, just to name a few. They end the globe's hottest year with an exclamation point. And I want to tell you what I did on Christmas Eve. When it was 63 degrees here and 73 degrees in Washington, D.C.
You went swimming.
I called the office, the Washington D.C. office of Senator Inhofe, and I said,
This is going to be good. I know this is going to be good.
Recorded message, please record what you have to say. I said, I'm calling from Vermont, and it's kind of warm here, and I wonder if Senator Inhofe has a snowball he could send us.
He's the guy who brought the snowball to Congress, right?
And said, so much for climate change, or global warming. And
this is a long and pretty good article. I got a couple of quick things that it pinpointed were happening.
Yeah.
And I just copied the headlines.
Yeah.
AFP, that's a Agence France Presse. It's like Reuters.
Okay.
Okay. Russia is warming 2.5 times quicker than the global average.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
The Guardian, which is a British newspaper, but it's worldwide. It's
Yes.
a good newspaper. We reference it a lot.
Right.
Well, Australia's carbon emissions are increasing. Well, that's no surprise.
Yes.
But they've supposedly slowed down with a lot of people going to solar. But there's still a lot of coal in Australia.
The Australian government that just kind of passed out, the Abbott government, which was replaced by the Turnbull government, which is in the same party. The party kind of fired Abbott, had been very much against renewable power. And I think they've set up the various organizations that they were trying to support in Australia for a bad fall.
Well, we're going to be talking about that, I think, in one of the articles coming up.
Right.
I guess the final one here is an outfit called Al Bawaba, which is in Jordan.
Okay. Alibaba?
Al Bawaba.
Yes.
That means the gate.
Ah, okay.
Okay. And Iran sets up a growth plan to develop renewable energy. Mm-hmm. So this is happening all over the place.
It's happening all over the place. The Iranians are putting in a lot of wind power. Okay, Wednesday, December 30th, from the Washington Post, we got this piece of information. Martin Luther King III.
That's the author.
Yes, wrote an opinion piece, which was called How the Polluter-Backed National Black Chamber Misleads Minorities. The National Black Chamber of Commerce has been warning communities of color that the Obama administration's Clean Power Plan will cause job losses and generate higher energy bills. Neither of these is true.
Not, huh? Well, no, there's job increases coming in the solar aspect.
Yeah,
of it.
I mean,
there are job losses happening, but there's other job opportunities.
Yeah. And so if you happen to be a coal miner of color in Kentucky or West Virginia, you might lose your job, but I think that Martin Luther King III was really kind of angry about this one.
I think he is.
And it's, I think he feels betrayed by these people.
Well, he's portraying this as a black-white issue, when it's really kind of a rich-poor issue.
I think that's correct.
Yeah.
But black-white issue? Who is the white person who's causing trouble here? Ah, I think I know. There's two of them, and neither one of them is under 73 years old. Okay, so our next item, which is on December 31st, comes from Clean Technica.
We got a picture here, don't we?
We have a picture. Yeah. Battery storage is already showing itself as a hotly contested race in the United States, even before the 2016 expected retail launch of the Tesla Powerwall, which isn't happening in 2016. It already happened in 2015 because
you can buy one here in Vermont.
You can buy one here in Vermont, but it's got to be installed here in Vermont. You can buy them from Green Mountain Power.
Yeah.
And the last time I talked to them at Green Mountain Power, they said, yes, we have them. They are here. You can buy them now.
Well, we talked about that on the show, too. Yeah. There's 3 different ways you can buy them.
That's right. But the point is, they're in stock.
They're here.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
so this is interesting. Tesla now has competition.
Yep.
What is it, Sonnenbatterie?
Sonnenbatterie.
I can't speak German either.
That's okay. You speak French better than I do. Tell me, you don't speak French at all?
I don't speak French at all.
Still better than I do. This storage race has been fueled by German-based Sonnenbatterie, launching its plug-and-play home battery in the system in the United States prior to Christmas. Sonnenbatterie means sun battery. So this is a
What does it mean?
solar
okay,
battery.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Die Sonne is the
So
sun.
there's people all over the world working on this stuff, and some of it's
Wow,
really
are
going to
are
hit.
they ever? Yeah, absolutely. This is a big deal. Although honestly, if I were to put money into something today,
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it into batteries. I'd put it into waste
Waste.
processing.
Yeah, yep.
Waste processing technologies.
There's more opportunity to grow there.
Yeah. It's,
Well, we've had this attitude, you throw waste away,
that's right.
and you don't.
That's right.
It doesn't happen in nature. There's always something that eats something.
That's right. Okay, now we're up
Moving
to
right along.
Friday, January 1st. And there we
Got
go.
a picture here, too.
Dr. Gavin Schmidt, director of NASA's Goddard Institute for Space Studies, recently tweeted some charts about carbon dioxide and global temperatures. They tell a compelling story. Climate change has not slowed down. It has been unrelenting. The result, unless we act vigorously, it's a disaster on many fronts. This is from Clean Technica. And for those of you who, look at this chart, on the in the upper right there, you'll see the numeral 2015, and if you look down from the 1, you'll see that there's a high there.
Yeah, a little peak.
A little peak. That was 1998, and Ted Cruz says that we've had basically flat. The climate change has drawn to a halt since 1998, but 1998 was beat by 2005. It was beat by 2005 was beat by in 2010. 2010's high was beat in 2014, and 2014's high is going to be beat in 2015.
Well,
and they're
this
saying
will be the hottest year in history.
Yeah, and they're saying that 2016 might be
Going to be
worse.
hotter. Started off that way.
This has not been a slowdown. This is a matter of some nincompoop putting a ruler on a chart and saying, "See, 2011 was below 1998 or whatever the excuse was."
Well, here's what he says: the probability of 2015 being a record year is greater than 99.999%.
Right. And then he goes and he compares that with various things.
Yeah, this just to give you an idea what 99.999% means.
Yep.
1, the Star Wars movie will make money. 2, Donald Trump will say something at the Las Vegas GOP debate that will offend somebody. And 3, at some point in your life you will experience either death or taxes.
One or the other. And of course, I could be, somebody might ask, am I trying to point out here when I said that this thing about Ted Cruz, am I trying to infer that he's a liar? And the answer to that is no, I'm not inferring that he's a liar.
You're outright
I'm saying
saying
that
it.
I think he's a liar. He's either intentional, I think he's intentionally ignorant maybe. But, intentionally ignorant is not qualification.
You can't pin your hopes on...
And I figured out that Donald Trump is not qualified to be president.
He was born on Mars.
No.
The moon.
You've got to be 40 years old to be president.
Yeah.
And he's got 28 years to go.
You get 28 years to go.
He's a 12-year-old.
Well, he is entertaining, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, entertaining. There's certain kinds of entertainment I can do without, and Donald Trump happens to be one of them.
I hear you.
Okay. Our next item is from January 2nd. Wind and solar power set for a construction boom in spite of a glut of cheap fossil fuels. Orders for 2016 solar and wind are up sharply from the United States to China to developing economies of Africa and Latin America, all in defiance of stubbornly low prices for coal and natural gas. This is from the Dallas Morning News. And today being the 7th of January, we had, I saw in the news, and this has been hanging around for a while, a thing saying that people in Saudi Arabia are worried about what they call the economic bomb. That the Saudi government has been pumping this oil like mad and not making enough money on it to be able to support itself.
Well, especially with the prices that they set.
They just raised the price for gasoline 50%.
In Saudi Arabia?
Yep, and they also raised the price of electricity, and they raised the price of water, and they have been raising other prices as well. And the people in Saudi Arabia are having
they're going to get a little bit upset. Cause
they're going to be a little bit upset.
all these prices were set low.
Yep.
To gain the support of the people.
That's right.
And now, as you just said, they're up against it.
They're up against
So
it.
they're raising prices. There's going to be unrest in Saudi
Right,
Arabia.
and
I predict
why
that.
are gas prices low? It's because the Saudis are pumping it as fast as they can.
Yeah.
Now, if they cut their production, they may actually find that they make more money.
Yeah.
They could make more money selling less
gas for more money.
The only thing is, that also means that everybody else makes more money too, and that includes everybody from Iran to Americans who are fracking. But the point that I'm making is, our low gas prices in the United States are dependent on somebody in Saudi Arabia saying pump oil fast. And if you want to do something foolish, there's one that you could pick. You know, just figure that gas prices are going to stay low. Yeah, you're doing something foolish. And if you want to do that.
It hasn't percolated down yet, but I lived in Saudi Arabia, as you know.
Yes.
And I lived in the area where all the oil was coming from.
Yes. And
I didn't know the difference between Sunnis and Shias then.
Yes.
Except the Shia clerics dressed a little funny.
Yeah.
A little bit different. I did know that. But the point of it is, in the eastern province where they're pulling out gas, there's a lot of Shias.
Oh,
They have been discriminated against by the Saudi government for a long, long time.
Yeah.
That's Sunni.
Yeah.
And if these guys stop going to work, the price of gas is going to go through the roof.
Yeah.
And that could happen. That could happen tomorrow.
And they could do that simply because they want the Iranians to have a better deal.
Well, yeah.
And in fact,
there is
the Iranians,
an Iranian connection there.
The Iranians could even pay them to do it.
I don't think they'd have to, but it could, yeah.
Yeah.
So there could be some disruptive stuff happening in Saudi Arabia.
I do not believe that I would put any, I would not bank on the idea that the price of oil is going to stay low. Yesterday it hit the lowest price in 11 years. It was
really?
below $35 a barrel.
And I saw diesel fuel up on Main Street, Upper Main Street, 209.
Yep.
209 a gallon. It hasn't been that low in probably 4 years.
Yep. And how much does biodiesel cost?
It's a little bit more.
Is it just a little bit more? Are they actually connected, or is the
Well,
price?
I don't know that, because the people who buy biodiesel up there, rather than petrodiesel, are buying it because they want to.
They want to have green fuel.
They want to have green fuel.
Yeah.
So they will pay a premium for it.
Okay.
And they don't advertise that price up on their signs,
okay,
you
yeah.
know. But yes, you can buy biodiesel at the Shell station.
At Shell station where?
Up on Main Street.
On Main Street.
Way up, you know, by the Price Chopper?
Yes.
The Shell
Okay,
station
that
up
Shell
there
station.
will sell biodiesel.
Is that Putney Road?
No, Putney Road's the other way.
Oh, by Price Chopper. I'm sorry. I'm going the wrong direction. Okay. Yeah, the Shell station on Main
Ladies
Street.
and gentlemen, that was a duh moment.
People ask me, you know, am I losing my marbles now that I'm almost 70? And I always say, you know, I've always been forgetful. And one of the things that happened when I was 13 years old, you know, talking about being forgetful at various ages, I actually spent half an hour looking for a pencil I was holding in my left hand. If I had been left-handed, I wouldn't look for it at all. All right, maybe we should just keep going.
I think we should.
Get away from all
We got a
this.
good one coming up.
Yeah, we do. This is kind of fun. Windstream Energy Technologies. This is still Saturday, January 2nd. This is in India, but Windstream Energy Technologies India Private Limited, in collaboration with the U.S. company, which is Windstream Energy Technologies, has started assembling small vertical turbines.
Look at them. Take a good look at those things. They're neat.
They're neat, with imported parts in Hyderabad. I don't know how to pronounce that. I don't even know what language it is. The silent turbines can be installed on any rooftop along with solar panels. Now you'll notice that just above those turbines is a solar panel.
Yeah, so it's a module, it's a unit.
Yeah, to produce a hybrid home energy system. And those little turbines, each one of them has an output, maximum output, that's approximately equal to that solar panel above them. So you could have 3 of those solar panels and those 3 turbines and have
that module, they said in the article, is 500 watts.
Yeah. The 3 turbines is 500.
The 3 turbines and the panel together is 500 watts.
Okay. All right. So I was wrong. I fibbed.
No, I'm wrong. It's just the 3 turbines that's 500 watts.
Oh, okay. Tom is reading the article as we speak. Okay. Anyway, these things, when they say they're silent, they mean that, they're pretty silent. I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, they don't make much noise at all.
Yeah, they stuck your head up, put your ear against the legs of that contraption. You might be able to hear a hum or something from a little alternator down in the bottoms of those. But
well, they make these things as well here in California.
They do
and
indeed.
They're probably made in China, but they sell them out of California.
They're
not terribly expensive.
No, they're not.
And
I actually priced these things with 3 solar panels. I think that's $2,300.
And you can buy one.
Yeah.
Save a little bit of money, buy another one.
That's right.
You got 4 or 5 of these things, you're off the grid.
I think that's true for a lot of people. Yeah. Okay, that was from the Hindu, which is a big paper in India. Our next item, and this I think is fun. I actually looked to find out how do you pronounce this name. It's something on the order of Wärtsilä, but I'm not going to pretend that that's correct. I didn't hear it.
What language is it from?
It's Finnish.
Finnish?
Yeah, and it's so funny because I put this thing up on the blog, and I had 11 hits on the blog from Finland that day.
Did you really? I'll be darned.
It's really funny. Wärtsilä will supply a 47 megawatt smart power generation power plant to Rochester Public Utilities in Minnesota. That's Rochester, Minnesota, not New York. 5 Wärtsilä 34 SG natural gas turbines will replace the aged coal and gas turbine gas engines. Gas turbine-based capacity efficiency will be nearly doubled and hourly carbon emissions reduced by 50%. This is from Industrial Prime.
Look at the size of those engines. I mean, you get some sort of the idea of the size if you look at that stairway.
Yeah, these are things that like the GE Jenbacher engine, they could have been fitted to railroad diesel.
That's probably what they were designed for.
And Wärtsilä is a big company, and as a note here, the Wärtsilä RT Flex 96C is
the big brother to these guys.
That's the big brother to these guys. Yeah, I went to their website just to find out about them, and they had a picture of a ship, a container ship, and it said this ship is powered by 1 diesel engine.
You were telling me about that.
Yes.
How big's the cylinder?
Okay, the cylinder bore is 37.5 inches. I mean, this is a cylinder for a reciprocating engine you could sleep inside of. The stroke on the cylinder is 8.4 feet.
So this is a very large engine.
This is a very big engine. It operates at 22 to 102 RPMs, very slow engine. It produces over 105,000 horsepower, and it weighs 2,500 tons. You're not going to see one of these ships on Lake Champlain. 2,500 tons.
Wow.
I mean, my father was on a destroyer.
And this really isn't new technology either.
This is not new technology. No, there's nothing new about this. I shouldn't say that because it's a smart machine. It's got computers and so forth. But the basic engineering behind this thing is, it's diesel. But being powered by natural gas, it doesn't have any...
It's pretty clean.
It's pretty clean. And another thing is, it is far more efficient than a gas turbine or a gas combined cycle plant. And furthermore, If you've got the thing set up properly, you can use it for combined heat and power.
Yeah, suck up the heat and
Yep.
run it under the sidewalk.
The GE Yenbacher engine, which is similar to these things, is almost 50% efficient generating electricity, and it is almost 40% efficient. It's over 40% efficient, sorry, generating heat from the waste heat from the electricity generation. So it's over 90% efficient. You're getting over 90% of the chemical energy of burning the gas is converted into something that you can sell. And so these things are, well, I don't ever plan on calling natural gas green, but it's a whole lot greener than coal. Another thing too is you have to remember that methane, natural gas is methane. Well, it's what's burning. And
it itself is a terrible greenhouse gas.
In itself, it's a terrible greenhouse gas, but it's also something which you get by trapping the gas from
cows.
Yeah, from cows, but trapping the gas from solid waste. Landfills.
Landfills. It's happening as we speak right now.
Right here in Brattleboro. It is what you get from biodigesters.
Yep.
It's what you get from, and biodigesters can work on farm waste, municipal waste, food waste, you name it waste, as long as
in London they're doing it on coffee grounds.
Yes. You can do it on all kinds of stuff, and this is stuff that used to go to the landfill. You're taking something that used to cost money to deal with and was polluting and turning it into something which is far less polluting and makes money. So this is the reason why I said if I were putting money into something, I would be looking seriously at managing waste. It's a big deal.
Well, it's going to happen because it's economically sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just going to take a while.
Yep. Okay, we are up to Monday, January 4th. Oh, I'm sorry. That was Monday, January 4th. We're up to Tuesday, January 5th. And a new slide. I have lots of slides today.
Only a couple of days ago.
Yeah, that's right. A natural gas leak in California is a problem for the industry. And by the way, Governor Brown in California declared that an emergency.
Yeah, he did. I just heard that on the news yesterday.
Right. And it's been going on for months, and they figure it'll take at least another month to get it under control. But that isn't what this is about. It's the latest news from Oklahoma, which has been dealing with its own natural gas problems in the form of unprecedented swarms of earthquakes. Last Tuesday, a big one hit the town of Edmond, measuring 4.3 on the Richter scale. This is from Clean Technica. And Oklahoma, which has always been pretty stable,
they're not an earthquake place,
is now being hit with more earthquakes than California, despite the fact that California is an earthquake place and it's much bigger. And these earthquakes are coming in swarms, and they are coming in some cases almost right under the feet of the people who are doing fracking.
So there's no proof, but what it suggests
well, no, the
cause and effect.
The U.S. geology people have said they have shown that there is a connection between fracking and earthquakes in Ohio.
I think it's logical that there is.
Yeah, it's a thing that you would think, but you know. And so here we have a problem with fracking. The two problems with fracking. One is this horrible methane leak in California.
Yeah.
And of course, every time you do any fracking, you've got methane leaks. Another one is the earthquakes, and of course that doesn't even speak to the fact that you've got people who turn on their water tap, and out comes this gushing, bubbling liquid that catches fire.
We've seen that too.
Yeah.
Yep.
So now
there's second-order consequences to fracking.
Yeah.
That either we haven't looked at or we don't want to look at.
Yeah, and the fact that the British are saying, oh, we want to do that too, tells me that they don't want to look at it.
Yeah.
They really don't. And what I'm seeing in Britain is very discouraging, because it looks like they are guided almost 0% by problems of climate change, almost 0% by the question of delivering reliable electricity to consumers at a reasonable price, and possibly 100% by how they can have big corporations profit.
Yeah.
And that I think is a serious problem.
We got the problem here.
Well,
it just hasn't gone as far yet.
I don't mind it as much when it's in the UK. I think we should take Donald Trump and Ted Cruz and send them to the UK, tell them to run for Prime Minister. Anyway.
Moving right along.
Moving right along. Our next item comes from Sun and Wind Energy. On January 1st, strict rules for construction came into effect in Germany. Heating new buildings without using renewable energy is no longer permitted.
Say that again. That's
Heating
that's a lot.
Heating new buildings without using renewable energy is no longer permitted. Oil heaters cannot be used at all anymore. A new primary energy requirement is that 25% lower than the previous threshold. And you know, somehow that sentence got mangled. But basically what's happening is they're saying all new construction has to be done with the heating for that construction coming from far more efficient resources. Mm-hmm. And it is possible to do some heating with fossil fuels. I'm suspecting that natural gas is probably...
Well, they're saying gas boilers are the least effective. They can only be used in combination with a solar thermal system.
Yeah.
So
they're permitting gas boilers as backup for solar thermal, is basically what it comes
basically,
down to.
Yeah. And this article did mention that solar thermal is the most efficient form of solar we have now.
Well, you know, yes.
That could change tomorrow, but that's where it is now.
But solar thermal is so efficient, it would be hard to imagine it changing overnight.
And it can be it can be preserved. It can be saved.
You can save it.
Save
As a matter of fact, and I don't know what the outcome of this was, but Habitat for Humanity in Brattleboro built a house a couple of years ago. I remember that.
I remember when it was happening. Yeah.
Yeah. Andy Kay was involved in that, and so forth, and because he's involved in Habitat for Humanity. And the idea behind that house was that there would be solar thermal collectors on the roof, and they would be putting heat into rocks in the sub-basement level. And that heat would
during the summertime, they'd be heating rocks.
Yeah, all year round, really, they're heating rocks
the
best they can. But during the summertime heat was going into these rocks.
That's an interesting concept.
Yep. And their calculations were that the house could possibly go with no heat at all, aside from those rocks, until mid-February. Mm-hmm. And then you'd start having to have extra heat being brought in. And of course, when you've got a situation like that, the easiest thing, cheapest thing to do would be to put in mini splits, probably.
Put in what?
Mini splits, the air-to-air heat pumps.
Okay.
You know, air source heat pumps. And they are getting more and more efficient and cheaper.
They're catching on here in Vermont, too.
Well, yeah, when you've got one of those things installed, it is actually about as expensive as using firewood in a wood stove, which has always been thought of as the cheapest source of heat we've got. So if you've got a mini split, and there are people who are doing this, if you've got a air source heat pump and you've got your own solar system, you can have your own solar system providing you with not only light, but also heat. And that includes both. The one that I like the best is the air source heat pump that takes the heat in your basement and moves it into your water heater. And of course,
takes the heat
from
that's
your basement,
in your basement already, okay,
and moves it into your water heater. Now, when they do that, that means that the thing that collects the heat becomes very cold.
Yeah.
Okay. And what they do is they have under that a drip pan that sends any condensation that is formed into your sump pump.
Okay.
So you are drying your basement out.
Okay.
This thing works as a dehumidifier and heating your water, and the combination of the two of those is cheaper than heating your water.
What will they think of next?
I don't know.
You know, there's some bright people out there working on some good stuff.
And you know, this is not terribly expensive.
Yeah,
So
it's affordable now.
It's yeah, absolutely. Okay, should we go on?
Well, we don't have much.
We don't have much left, but we also don't have much time left. So it looks like we've got the best of all possible worlds.
2 items left. We got 5 minutes.
Yep. From The Guardian, we learned this. Western Australia would not be able to privatize its electricity assets even if they were given away, because the popularity of rooftop solar panels has made state-owned power stations unprofitable. A renewable energy expert has said the grid overcapacity and the grid is overcapacity and solar power is growing.
So if I understand this correctly, on their own, just for purely economic reasons,
Yes.
Australians are investing in solar energy.
Yes, that's right.
And because of that, the government-owned power company
Is in trouble.
is in trouble.
That's right.
And they're trying to sell some of their assets, and nobody wants them.
They actually sold a 1,000 megawatt coal burning plant
Yeah.
to two
I think
people.
we talked about that.
That's right, for $1 million.
Yeah.
That would be like
That
selling.
sounds
would be
like a lot of money, but it's not.
It's not. It would be like selling Vermont Yankee for
$1 million.
$700,000. You know,
Yeah.
it's like what?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like these two guys bought the plant, and I wonder if they didn't rip themselves off in the process. We have one.
They're well connected, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
they're not going to lose money.
Well, I don't know that they're not going to lose money, but they knew what they were doing, or they should have known what they were doing. But you know, I think there's a certain amount of risk involved, and they knew it, because that's the reason why it was $1 million
so cheap,
instead of $200 million or something like that. Our next item is from Vermont Public Radio. Vermont regulators granted permission for a 154-mile power transmission line known as the New England Clean Power Link, designed to bring hydroelectric power from Canada to southern New England. The power line, which has not yet received federal approval, but it will.
It will.
Uses Vermont as a corridor, which means
we've talked about this one before. Actually, there's 2 of them going on, but this is the one that goes into Ludlow.
it goes to Ludlow.
And at Ludlow, or really at Cavendish, which is about 5 miles away,
Right.
we got a line going down to Yankee.
Right.
Then from Yankee, it goes to Massachusetts.
Right.
Goes to, it's
So
connected
the line that
to
used
everything.
to take power from Yankee to Ludlow is now going to be
it's
taking
gonna be
power
going the other way
from
around.
Ludlow to
Yep.
Yankee.
Yep.
But this is a very convenient. Ludlow is a very convenient place to bring this thing to, and so it makes sense. And Vermont is a corridor. Yeah, there's going to be an economic link there where Vermont has some profit out of this. I'm not sure exactly how.
Well,
it works,
the developer there promised the state $250 million to help clean up Lake Champlain.
to help clean up Lake Champlain, which is
I think
big deal.
It needs.
It needs it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go
Yeah.
up there in late August, and northern Lake Champlain's all green.
Yeah.
And it blooms.
With cyanobacteria, which happens to be poisonous. A lot of it, not all of it.
Yeah, okay.
But a lot of it is poisonous. So, you know, we've got Lake Champlain, which is such a beautiful lake, and you can't.
It's in trouble.
It's in trouble. You can't.
Mostly that's from agricultural wash-off.
A
from the
lot of it
fields,
is agricultural, and as a matter of fact, Green Mountain Power is building a series of
talked about that.
of biodigesters to help ameliorate that.
Yep.
And they figured that they could cut the amount of phosphates going into Lake Champlain by 1/3, which is significant.
I would say.
And,
Not enough, but significant.
It's not enough to affect a real serious complete change, but it's enough to really get the ball rolling.
But the bottom line is people are thinking about doing this, and we are making
Right.
progress.
Right. And on that note, I think we can probably say goodbye to everybody.
Well, we got a minute and a half left on the clock. You want to sing a song?
No, not today. I don't have my guitar with me, but I'll bring it in someday. And so we will say have a nice week, have a nice day, have a spectacular time. And in fact, you can see the thing in the background there.
The logo there.
Why don't you switch to it, Tom? This will be our goodbye logo. There you go.
There you go.
What does that say?
Have a perfectly lovely week.
There you go. See you later.
Alligator.